Probably the biggest thing I wanted to talk about, which I'm glad Danny watched it too. It's the first thing when I saw you at the Brooklyn Comedy Club. It's the first thing we talked about.
I know.
So escaping twin flames, right?
Bum, bum, bum.
If you haven't watched this, it's going to be a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
If you have watched it, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's getting spoiled for you.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't matter.
It's not the type of thing
you can still
that
watch
matters.
after the fact because it's pretty unbelievable.
It's also a documentary, so it already happened, right?
Yeah.
Escaping twin flames is basically Nexium for fucking girls that are even more retarded.
Yeah, but it's like Nexium, but not illegal because he's not fucking the chicks.
The only reason he's not banging the chicks is because he never got them to the commune.
Now, not to get too ahead of the story here, but is there
give it just a quick thing. Basically, this guy runs online
dating. Matchmaker.
He was trying all these different schemes with his hippie Burning Man community.
Yeah.
And the one he found out on is basically he can convince you everyone has their twin flame, which is the perfect person for them, and he's really good at having you find them.
Yeah, and he helps you. Yeah, he says every person has one person for them.
What it turned into was basically a complete cult. The girls all have to quit their jobs. They all marry just like complete schlubs. Then they run out of people. He turns the girls trans. It's all
very
sort
much
of things,
figuring
right?
it out as he goes along. The way he's calling these audibles at the line.
So what were you gonna say?
But I was just saying because he didn't bang them. Is there because
he never got his church? He was trying to get a
one
church.
of the parts, to save money on taxes, basically, is he was trying to get a church. But what I was saying is because there's one element when you're watching it, all the chicks just keep getting fatter and fatter.
That's my favorite part.
Yeah, it's so funny, and they don't really address it. Until,
Yes, they do.
No, they do address it, but for a bit they don't.
That's my favorite
So
part.
you're watching them get fatter and fatter, and you're like, "What is going on here?" So I'm like, "Do you think maybe he's fattening them up so he doesn't get tempted to bang them because he doesn't want to cross the line into illegal territory?"
Well, what
right?
actually happened is the reason they're getting fatter is because he basically convinced the girls that if they want to be in the cult and keep their job, which they barely get paid for, of recruiting other girls, is they have to also eat his diet plan, and he sends them a bucket of lard every week. And then, so they have to buy
He sells a diet. Yeah, he sells
them like a
diet.
subscription service to food. And then he's in the meetings being like, I actually was uncertain about my girl getting fat, but I actually love her more.
Yeah.
And his whole thing
It's so funny because he's not getting fat.
this guy's all in on like profiting off of all of the movement. So he convinces all the girls that need to buy his buckets of fucking meat.
Oh, so good.
Buckets of carbs. So the takeaway from this thing is it's just so funny because there's just like so many of these things where they get girls to join cults, and they preyed on girls in all the different. He basically said they were going to the fibromyalgia community, and they're going to the the depression community, like the bisexual community. They found all the wacky Facebook groups of the internet of where girls are crazy.
Yeah, and this whole thing was on Facebook and then a little later on YouTube, I think. But
but it's crazy because when you see these things, there's been like 100 of them, right? And this whole thing was such a microcosm of all the stuff that happens in the real world. But basically you have all these chicks and they're all doing the thing being like, and he made me do this, and then you go, how long were you there for? It's like 4 years. It's like I always talk about the Playboy girls. They were like, Hugh Hefner's a misogynist. Like, how long did you work there? It's like 27 years.
Yeah,
and it was like all these girls, like the Carla Homolka thing, where it's, they always blame it on the guy.
No accountability.
But it's like in this one, you were like the lieutenant. You were Himmler.
Yeah.
Like these girls that are making the documentary about how bad he was. You were his third in command.
And you bought into some nonsense. Like, obviously he finds these women who are like, oh, I can't find love. And then he goes, hey, I got a solution for you. There just happens to be this person who's your perfect yin to your yang, who also happens to likely live in the same town as you. What are the odds?
It was even crazier than that, because how he finds people is he makes them do something. And then the one girl, she was like,
they have to be in the Facebook group, right?
This was after. At the beginning, it starts out and he was like, he makes them do this sort of like self-actualization stuff, right?
Yeah.
And say some shit. And then after it happens, like a week later, he kind of goes, have you got any messages? And the one girl goes, I got some like random message from some guy on Facebook.
Yeah, like in like the extra, like like in your inbox, and then you have your other inbox.
And this guy
like spam
was a drug addict, unemployed, schizophrenic that lives on the other side of the country, and he can't have a job because he's in and out of jail, and he's like a drug dealer. And
this girl was 19,
and she's 19. The guy's 35, and the guy goes, that's your sign. That's your twin flame. And he keeps telling people it's their twin flame, and he goes, yeah. And she goes, that's your twin flame. He goes, you can't fight it. And then she goes, okay.
All right.
And then she's like, okay. So he convinces this guy's his soulmate that just like a guy just says he wants to see the mobs.
Yeah.
And basically the guy convinces her soulmate. And then the next one, she goes, well, I feel like I'm still kind of in love with my ex, but he has all these restraining orders. And she goes, well, the law can't stop you because that's your twin flame.
That's your twin flame. And she goes, are you sure? And he goes, yeah, that's your twin flame.
Convinces the girl that this guy's her twin flame, that she has an actual restraining order against.
Yeah.
The other girl
and
has
then
a
she's
friend.
texting him nonstop.
And then she ends up going to jail.
Yeah, she ends up going to jail. This is what she says. I don't believe this, but she
says she was just actually
She goes,
there.
I randomly went to a bar one night. He was there.
No.
And then because of that, he called the police and I went to jail for a month.
Well, this guy's got her convinced that this is her twin flame. And she goes, but he says, like, trust me, this is just like the universe testing you. You guys will be together. The other girl's like 300 pounds.
Yeah.
She's got her twin flame that's a family friend that's gay.
Yep.
And then basically the guy sending her message after message being like, leave me alone. That girl's becomes basically the
head.
COO.
Yeah,
she's like the head of recruiting. She's recruiting all these other girls. She hasn't even found her. And so she's basically telling these, she's going into Facebook groups being like, this guy can help you find the perfect mate. He goes, what'd you do for you? He goes, well, mine's gay and it's been 5 years and now he won't talk to me. He's blocked me on every platform, but I'm still selling the system. So at some point, you're essentially Himmler to the operation, right? And then Danny, you actually said this to me at the comedy club and I thought it was a good point because you're like, you guys are Auschwitz guards. And he goes, well, you're not Auschwitz guards. You're Auschwitz guards when it's a volunteer position. And worse than that, you're paying to be an Auschwitz guard.
You're paying.
You can leave at any time.
Yeah, you can leave at any point. They're trying to be like, oh, we were victimized. You're like, you're idiots. I don't know what to tell you. The craziest part is, or one of the craziest parts is, so his whole premise is that there's a masculine and a feminine in the twin flames.
Oh, yeah,
thing,
this is the best part.
So he goes, there's a masculine and a feminine energy. And so, but it's like mostly women in this group, right?
Obviously.
So then, in order for him to match him up, the one that you're talking about, this chick, she's Canadian.
It's a big girl. Looks like a disinformation
big girl
specialist.
who was trying to bang the gay guy, the original twin flame. And he goes, no, your actual twin flame is this other woman. And she goes, look, I'm not lesbian. And he goes, well, you're actually the masculine energy and she's the feminine, so you have to like now become a trans man. And then there was so you're watching these interviews and now all of a sudden there's all these trans women and trans men.
It takes him 15 minutes to convince half the people they're trans because they don't have enough guys. So literally he's trying to pair people up and he goes, this isn't working that good pairing people up with people that aren't in the group, so I need people in the group. There's 100 people in the group, 80 of them are girls. And he was like, all right, the 10 of you are trans.
Yeah.
And then they were like, I am? And then she goes, yeah, you are. And he goes, I guess I've always thought I might have been a man. It's just like, so that's how easy it is to convince girls to be trans.
It's crazy. There's only one in the documentary, one girl.
At one point, he goes, he goes, there's a two, and he goes, the girl's a guy and a guy's a girl. The guy gets surgery to be a girl, the girl gets surgery to be a guy. Didn't think about being trans up until 6 months ago when this guy told them they
two
are.
of the women got mastectomies because he told them they were trans. And then the funniest thing is because the documentary is not trying to get into the trans debate, so they're very much like, oh, being trans is valid, and they probably would have got mastectomies regardless. I guess he just kind of like did I don't even know what point they were trying to make. So
well, they had to bring trans. They tried to bring some trans people in to sort of say the pro-trans point. And they'd bring a guy being like, well, we actually do agree with being trans, but the way he's doing it, we don't love because he's saying that they are, but the whole point is it should be your choice. And it was like, well, should it be your choice or were you actually that?
Well, that's the thing. If you were that, if anything, then now he's doing you a favor because he's getting you there quicker.
The trans specialists that come in don't know what to say because it dispels their whole thing. It's like, well, if they were that, and you go, so either you can convince people or can't convince people.
Yeah. And he definitely convinced people, and then they had to give a little disclaimer at the end, being like,
making the people trans was the best part. Where
that
he
was
goes,
where I
he
go,
literally
what?
He brought people into the group to find he goes, you're gonna find your perfect like lover that's the perfect person for you. Cut to 4 months later, they've put on fucking 150 pounds. He's drained them dry of money, and they're trans.
Yeah,
it's kind of like college.
It's kind of like college. Nice. Yeah. And then he's all like dressing Versace and driving Porsches and shit. Like he's really leaning into being this rich dude now. And
yeah. And then at one point, Keith Ramirez, the Nexium guy, he makes everyone write an article he makes everyone watch the Keith Ramirez doc and then write an article about why Keith Ramirez is the good guy.
No, well, not the good guy, but just that like why the different, not the good guy, but like why they're not doing anything illegal, because I think he started seeing Keith Raniere is going to jail for life, and he goes, oh, okay, I gotta cover my base.
But he made everyone write an essay.
An essay or whatever about why we're not. It was like why he's good. I think it's like why he's good, but also like why we're not doing anything illegal here. Like everybody had to write. So essentially, he'll have this evidence being like in the future.
That's what. Yeah, you told me that, which made sense.
Kind of like a cover your ass thing, where everybody goes, look, just to be clear, nothing illegal's happening. I'm not forcing you to do anything. You're eating these gruel buckets every week on your own volition.
You demand the gruel buckets.
You told me you were trans. I didn't bring that up.
It's also so funny the guys in the thing have to get on board with the idea that, yeah, I definitely like it when she puts on 100 pounds.
Yeah.
More gruel buckets, please.
Also,
the guys, one of the things he said is he's like, so you've been eating your gruel buckets?
Also, it's like 10-1 women to guys.
It always is.
But then it's 10-1 women to the guys, and then they're still making some of the guys women.
I know. That's the funniest
It's like these dudes are like, oh shit, I got the fucking pick of the litter. And they go, actually, you're a chick now. You go, what?
What the fuck?
What? No, I want to smash. I'm going to run through every one of these chicks for my $200 a month. You go, tough break. You will. But you're going to have to dress like a chick and do it. You have to mostly scissor and stuff.
It is a really good summation of how much girls can be convinced of anything by social pressure. Mm-hmm. That's why I was kind of thinking, you know how recently they've been talking a lot about how Gen Z, they said it's this bigger divide than ever where the girls are more liberal, the guys are more conservative or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not really that big of a problem in a lot of ways because it's like, well, yeah, then the girl will start dating a guy and she'll change her crazy opinions because girls just take the opinions of who they're around.
Yeah.
Like most girls, once they start dating a guy, they sort of like flip their opinions back into that. So, well, like, you know what I mean? I was thinking girls more change their opinions entirely on like, you know, what's socialized around them and what they're told. They're almost more blank slates. And guys, even the dudes that changed their opinions a ton in like 2015, they didn't change their opinions because they actually believed it. They changed their opinions for self-preservation reasons.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Like guys, like a lot of times people will say that dudes, they'll be like, oh, they changed their opinions for getting pussy reasons.
Yeah.
But they didn't, like those guys didn't really, that's so obviously there's some guys that do that.
That was a part of it.
Yes, but
that
like,
wasn't the
really
thing.
guys don't change their opinions for getting pussy reasons. They change their opinions for like fear reasons.
Sure. Well,
like they're afraid of
I'll
the king.
say in the
it's
moment,
like they change their opinion because like the king has demanded it.
in the moment, you might change your opinions. Like there's certainly,
But no, but that's a certain Weasley guy, and those guys are basically girls. That's what I'm saying.
no, yeah. Well, I say maybe like omission stuff. Like, you know, if you're on, I've certainly been on, and I'm sure lots of guys have. Like, you know, you're on like a first date with some chick, and she's like, "Oh, I'd never bang someone who thinks X," and you go, and you think X, and you go, "Yeah."
Yeah, but that guy didn't actually change his opinion. That's my point.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
By omission. Yeah.
I'm seeing the ones that actually did.
Who actually publicly
pretended they believed it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm the opposite. I like to argue.
Yeah.
I'm more of a negger. You know what I mean?
Careful.
Yeah, I guess careful, but I feel like I am more. That is more part of my game to.
Someone just speeds up that clip like 1.2 times and it's in the doghouse. Podcast is over.
I feel like 90% of my game is arguing with girls. they get tired out of arguing.
That's the funnest. Me and Chris Vega, we're at where we went to go grab a drink at that bar by the stand or whatever, and then Pete from the stand who was there, he like these two girls who are coming from kickball were like annoying everybody, and then he told us, he goes, "Oh, those two guys are really funny comics, go talk to them," and they were like blackout drunk, and we were just trying to have like
and what did you and Chris say? Drink. Bingo.
No, we said, they go, "Oh, you're comics?" And we go, "No, we're actually comic book artists." And then we did this whole thing for like half an hour, how I drew Spider-Man and he did Spawn.
I like that kind of shit.
Yeah, we were
that's
like
my favorite
literally
type
fucking
of shit.
with them, and then this one girl was like, "Oh, you know what?" She's like, and she was the less drunk one, and they were like these two like big girls, like they came from, and they were like
big women
in their kickball attire. I'm like, you have any self-respect? Like in their like intramural kickball gear, all like sweaty and shit, and they were like,
and they came up to you. They said, "These two are perfect for us."
They came up to us, yeah, and then
they said, "Let's slum it tonight."
Yeah.
We just turned Tiger Woods down. Let's talk to these two losers.
And then the one girl was like, "Oh yeah, I actually took because we were saying how we were these like big time comic book artists and whatever."
Yeah.
And then the girl was like, "Yeah, I just actually I took a course in college about comic books and blah." And then she started like name dropping, and I had to be like, and Chris was gone actually at that moment. So then I was, because he knows comic books and I don't at all, and I was like, "Yeah, I've never heard of that guy who was like the main guy who made Batman." After
you flubbed the bag on it.
Well, I didn't care. I'm not trying to. I don't give a shit. I kind of was like, "Oh yeah, I think I maybe."
The bit's not funny when you're by yourself.
Yeah, the bit's like,
That's definitely a bit for
I was
buddies.
just getting punished.
No, he goes to the bathroom and you're like, "What's your favorite comic book?" You go, "Listen, ladies, like this was like fun thing I was doing with my friend. Like if you could go back to your troughs."
Yeah, I think the farmer's trying to get you back in the stables. So scram.
This is a fun little bit we were doing when Chris was here.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I've already got my leg workout for you having the ground shake below me for every step you take. So, if you don't mind, guards. But yeah, girls will get tricked into anything, which is why. It's the same thing I say with there's certain type of male that's very like can be taken advantage of. Like there's 70% of girls I feel like I've dated. I've always said this, but you could probably convince them to like bury a body if you really needed to.
Yeah,
it would take a little bit of work, but like I'm not saying every single one, but like 7 out of 10, which is why it's up to you as a male to not use that power for bad. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
That's the honorable thing to do, is not to get them involved in like a crime syndicate.
Yeah.
It's the least I could do.
Hopefully you wind up with the El Chapo's chick who was like, was he doing crime? I didn't see any crime the whole time.
Chapo.
Yeah, the whole time I knew him, I didn't see him really commit any crimes. So I guess I'll have to take your word for it. But no, he was just kind of went to church.
Well, I know he had $1 million, but he had that fruit stand that was very lucrative.
His bean farm. Yeah, which, we like beans in Mexico. So that's where I assumed those billions.
I saw him burying some bones, so I think that was like he has a broth thing going on, maybe. He's like maybe the best broth in all of Colombia. You know what? I kind of maybe also think the most thing that I thought was how much of it was just like a real case study of everything that's happened. It was like you bring a bunch of girls in and then you tell them that they're on this perfect ideology and this is how they can win, and everyone around them thinks it, and then before you know it, they're fat and trans.
Yep. And by the way, this is still going on.
And giving them all their money, and they've, and it's not working out for them. Yes, it's still going on.
And the crazy thing is, people probably, with all this negativity going around it, is the police like investigated him, and because he is covering his bases, they're like, there's nothing illegal going on here. Like,
yeah.
If you want to say, hey, it's illegal to make someone become trans, well, then there's a lot of people who are going to jail. Like to convince someone mentally that they're now trans. You're like,
but that's why he's so
10,000 people.
But that's why he's like playing really in the like social justice sandbox, because that's his sweet spot, right?
Smart.
Yeah, that's like a shield of himself too.
Yeah, but probably
is there a problem? He goes, why are you making them all fat? You go, because it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Is there a problem? He
has all the things covered.
I guarantee you, the number is not zero of women who watch that documentary. You go, I think he's misunderstood. I'm going to try this, and are now paying him $200.
He's probably doing better because of the dog.
Probably. It's wild.
Yeah, and Tiger Woods ain't smashing.